Let me ask you something. Why are you giving your energy to someone who won't even acknowledge your existence? Why are you letting their silence define your worth? Listen, I know it stings. I know that feeling when someone ignores you, when they act like you don't matter, when you're left questioning yourself. But here's the truth. Their ignorance is not your problem. When someone ignores you, it can trigger a deep emotional response that makes you question your own value. It's a natural reaction to wonder what went wrong, to analyze every interaction, and to replay conversations in your mind, searching for answers. The silence feels personal, as if it's a reflection of something you lack. This is where most people get trapped, allowing someone else's actions to dictate how they feel about themselves. The truth is, your value isn't determined by whether someone acknowledges you or not. It isn't something that increases when someone pays attention to you or decreases when they don't. Your worth is inherent, and it exists whether someone recognizes it or not. From a young age, people are conditioned to seek validation from others. Praise from teachers, approval from parents, acceptance from peers. It all contributes to a sense of self-worth. Over time, this external validation becomes something people rely on, shaping how they see themselves. When someone ignores them, it feels like a withdrawal of that validation, as if something has been taken away. But that validation was never meant to be the foundation of self-worth. The problem isn't that someone is ignoring you, it's that their actions have the power to make you feel less than you are. The moment you tie your value to someone else's behavior, you give them control over your self-perception. It's important to recognize that people's actions are influenced by their own internal struggles, priorities, and circumstances. Someone ignoring you doesn't always mean they don't care or that you're not important. They might be dealing with personal issues, overwhelmed with their own problems, or emotionally unavailable. Even if they are intentionally ignoring you, that decision says more about them than it does about you. It reflects their mindset, their level of emotional maturity, and their ability to communicate. The way someone treats you is a reflection of who they are, not a measurement of your value. People prioritize what they find important. If someone consistently ignores you, it simply means you are not their priority. And that realization can be painful, but instead of internalizing it as a statement about your worth, shift your perspective. A person's inability to see your value does not mean it isn't there. It's not your job to convince them, to chase them, or to seek their approval. You don't need to remind someone of your worth if they were truly capable of recognizing it in the first place. The people who genuinely value you will make it clear through their actions, not leave you guessing through their silence. The danger of tying your self-worth to external validation is that it creates a cycle of dependence. When someone acknowledges you, you feel valuable. When they ignore you, you feel insignificant. This constant fluctuation keeps you in a state of emotional instability, always looking outward for reassurance. The only way to break free from this pattern is to ground yourself in an unshakable belief in your own value. That belief must come from within, independent of how others treat you. When you reach this level of self-assurance, people's actions no longer have the power to define you. There will always be people who fail to see your worth, and that's okay. Your energy is far too valuable to be wasted on those who can't recognize what you bring to the table. Instead of focusing on the ones who ignore you, redirect your attention to those who appreciate you. The more you invest in yourself, the less you will be affected by the absence of someone else's validation. When you understand your own worth, you stop looking for it in places where it was never meant to be found. The goal isn't to make others see your value. It's to never let their blindness make you forget it. Rejection has a way of making people feel like they're not enough. It stings, it lingers, and it makes you question yourself in ways you never expected. When someone ignores you, walks away, or chooses not to acknowledge your presence, it can feel like a personal attack. But what most people fail to realize in the moment is that rejection is often a redirect. It's life's way of closing one door to push you toward another, even if you don't understand why right now. People tend to hold on tightly to the things they want, whether it's relationships, friendships, or opportunities. When someone pulls away, the first instinct is often to chase, to fix, to prove yourself worthy of their attention. The mind immediately looks for ways to regain that validation, searching for what could have been done differently. This reaction comes from fear, the fear of not being enough, of being left behind, of losing something familiar. But fear distorts reality. It makes it seem like being ignored is a loss, when in reality, it could be the best thing that ever happened to you. There's a reason certain people don't stay in your life. Sometimes the very thing you're holding on to is the thing that's holding you back. People don't always recognize when they're in situations that limit them. They don't always see that the relationships they're trying to save are the ones draining their energy. They don't realize that the job they're desperately clinging to is preventing them from pursuing something better. Rejection is a redirection because it forces you to shift your focus. It makes you stop chasing what isn't meant for you and start paying attention to what is. Think back to a time in your life when you wanted something so badly, only to be met with silence, distance, or a closed door. At the time, it felt like a loss, but looking back now, can you see how it led you to something greater? Can you see how the space that rejection created allowed something better to enter your life? The problem is, people often get stuck in the pain of the moment and fail to see the bigger picture. They let rejection consume them instead of using it as fuel to move forward. When someone ignores you, it's easy to take it personally. It's easy to believe that if you were just better, smarter, or more valuable, they would have treated you differently. But that's not how life works. The truth is, people's actions are a reflection of their own priorities, experiences, and limitations. Sometimes they pull away because they're not ready, because they're not capable of giving you what you deserve, or because they were never meant to be in your life long term. Instead of seeing their absence as a loss, see it as an opportunity. Their departure is making space for the right people, the right opportunities, and the right path to unfold. People who are meant to be in your life will not leave you confused about where you stand. They will not ignore you, make you feel invisible, or leave you questioning your worth. The ones who walk away or refuse to acknowledge your presence are simply showing you that they were never meant to be part of your future. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you can shift your energy toward what truly aligns with you. Rejection is not a sign that you're unworthy. It's a sign that you're being redirected to something better. The key is to trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense yet. People always make time for what they truly care about. No matter how busy someone is, if something matters to them, they will find a way to prioritize it. This is a hard truth that many people struggle to accept. When someone ignores you, the natural instinct is to make excuses for them. You tell yourself they're just busy, they must have forgotten, or maybe they didn't see your message. You convince yourself that their lack of attention is not a reflection of how they feel about you. But actions always speak louder than words. If they wanted to, they would. If they valued your presence, they would make an effort. If you were a priority, you wouldn't have to wonder where you stand. People's choices reveal everything about their true intentions. When someone consistently makes time for you, checks in, and shows up, it's because they care. When they ignore you, take days to respond, or act indifferent, it's because they've already made a decision about where you fit into their life. That decision may not be the one you want to hear, but it's the reality. The sooner you accept it, the sooner you can stop chasing people who have no intention of making space for you. It's not about forcing someone to acknowledge you. It's about recognizing your own value and refusing to settle for less than you deserve. People often hold on to relationships, friendships, or connections that are one-sided because they don't want to face the truth. They believe if they just try harder, if they just prove their worth, the other person will start treating them differently. But that's not how real connections work. You should never have to beg for someone's time, attention, or respect. The ones who genuinely care about you won't make you question where you stand. Sometimes people ignore you not because they dislike you, but because you're not a priority to them. They may enjoy your presence when it's convenient for them, but they don't value you enough to make an effort. This is where many people get stuck, mistaking occasional attention for genuine care. A person can like you, appreciate you, or even enjoy talking to you, but if they don't prioritize you, then their feelings don't translate into action. What matters isn't what someone says when they're around, it's how they treat you when you're not. It's important to understand that making someone a priority who only sees you as an option will never bring you happiness. The more you justify their actions, the more you allow yourself to accept less than you deserve. It's not about being bitter or resentful. It's about being honest with yourself. The people who truly belong in your life will never make you feel like you have to fight for their attention. They will show up consistently, not just when it's convenient. When you stop chasing those who ignore you, you create space for people who genuinely appreciate you. It's easy to become fixated on someone who doesn't reciprocate your energy, but that only drains you emotionally. Instead of focusing on those who don't prioritize you, shift your energy toward those who do. The right people will make you feel valued without you having to question their intentions. The more you recognize this, the less time you will waste trying to convince someone to see your worth. When someone truly values you, they won't leave you wondering. Chasing people who don't see your worth is one of the quickest ways to lose yourself. When someone ignores you or fails to make you a priority, the natural instinct is to seek their approval. You start wondering what you did wrong, what you could change, how you can prove that you're worthy of their time and attention. But the moment you start chasing, you place your value in their hands. You allow them to dictate your self-worth based on whether or not they choose to acknowledge you. That mindset will keep you stuck, constantly trying to gain validation from people who don't deserve to hold that power over you. Seeking approval from others is a losing game because it puts you in a position of weakness. It shifts your energy from confidence to desperation, from self-respect to self-doubt. The more you try to prove your worth to someone, the less they will respect you. People don't value what they don't have to work for. When you are constantly available, constantly proving yourself, constantly chasing their attention, you become an option rather than a priority. The people who truly matter in your life will never need to be convinced to treat you with respect. Elevating yourself means recognizing that your time, energy, and presence are valuable. Instead of seeking validation from those who ignore you, focus on building yourself into the kind of person who doesn't need external approval to feel worthy. Confidence comes from knowing your value, not from trying to convince others of it. When you understand your worth, you stop entertaining people who don't see it. You stop waiting for messages that never come. You stop justifying someone's lack of effort, and you stop giving your energy to those who take you for granted. People can sense when you are seeking their approval. They can feel when you are willing to accept less than you deserve just to keep them in your life. That kind of energy pushes people away because it comes from a place of neediness rather than strength. The most powerful thing you can do when someone ignores you is to rise above it. Walk away with dignity. Do not beg, do not chase, do not try to convince them of your worth. Instead, focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts the right people, the right opportunities, and the right energy into your life. When you elevate yourself, your standards change. You no longer tolerate being ignored, disrespected, or treated as an afterthought. You no longer waste time overanalyzing someone's lack of interest because you are too focused on your own growth. You start surrounding yourself with people who genuinely appreciate you rather than those who make you feel invisible. You start investing in your own goals, passions, and self-improvement instead of waiting for someone else to acknowledge your worth. Raising your standards doesn't mean becoming arrogant or acting like you are better than others. It means recognizing that you deserve to be treated with respect and refusing to settle for less. It means understanding that the right people will never put you in a position where you have to question your value. The moment you stop chasing and start elevating, everything changes. You shift from seeking validation to commanding respect, from waiting for attention to becoming someone people want to be around. When you carry yourself with confidence and self-respect, the right people will naturally gravitate toward you. Ignoring someone is a choice. When a person decides to overlook your presence, dismiss your efforts, or act as if you don't exist, they are making a deliberate decision. It might not always be out of malice, but it is still a reflection of where they place you in their life. The reality is, no one is ever too busy to acknowledge someone they truly care about. People make time for what matters to them. They respond to what they value. If they are ignoring you, it's not because they forgot. It's because at some level they have chosen to do so. This truth is difficult to accept because it forces you to face the uncomfortable reality that not everyone sees your worth the way you do. You may have given them your time, your energy, and your attention, but none of that guarantees that they will reciprocate it. People see the world through their own priorities, and sometimes you simply do not fit into the picture they have created for themselves. That does not mean you are not valuable. It does not mean you are not worthy of love, respect, or recognition. It only means that you are giving your energy to the wrong person. Many people fall into the trap of justifying another person's decision to ignore them. They convince themselves that there must be a misunderstanding, that maybe they just need to try harder, be more patient, or prove their worth in some way. But in doing so, they fail to recognize that the real issue is not with them, it's with the person who has chosen to look the other way. When someone continuously ignores you, they are communicating a message, even if they never say a word. Their actions, or lack thereof, reveal their priorities far more than any explanation ever could. It is important to understand that being ignored is not a reflection of your value. It is a reflection of their capacity to recognize it. Some people are not capable of appreciating what you bring to the table. Some people only value what they have to chase, what they have to earn, what they believe is just out of their reach. When you make yourself too accessible to someone who does not appreciate you, you lose yourself in the process. You begin to lower your standards, accept less than you deserve, and settle for being tolerated rather than celebrated. Respect is not something you should have to beg for. Attention should not have to be fought for. The people who truly care about you will never put you in a position where you have to question your worth. When someone ignores you, do not waste your time trying to decode their intentions or fix what is not yours to fix. Do not lower yourself to a place where you are waiting for breadcrumbs of acknowledgement from someone who does not even see the effort you are putting in. Instead, recognize their silence for what it is, a signal that you are focusing on someone who is not meant for you. Your energy is too valuable to be spent on those who do not see you. Every moment you waste wondering why someone is ignoring you is a moment that could be spent on those who genuinely appreciate you. The more you chase someone who chooses to overlook you, the more you reinforce the idea that your worth is dependent on their validation. But the moment you stop, the moment you decide to redirect your focus, you take back your power. You remind yourself that you do not need to fight for a place in someone's life. If they truly wanted you there, they would have made room for you. Silence is not always empty. When someone ignores you, their silence speaks louder than any words ever could. It is a form of communication, a message they are sending without saying anything at all. The problem is that most people don't listen to what silence is trying to tell them. They try to fill in the gaps with assumptions, excuses, and justifications. They convince themselves that maybe the other person is too busy, too distracted, or too caught up in their own life to respond. But deep down, they know the truth. If someone wanted to talk to you, they would. If someone valued you, they wouldn't let you sit there wondering where you stand. Ignoring someone is an intentional act. It requires effort to look at a message and choose not to respond. It takes a conscious decision to walk past someone and act like they don't exist. People don't ignore by accident. They ignore because they have chosen to do so. And when someone makes that choice repeatedly, they are showing you exactly how much you matter to them. The problem is not that they are silent. The problem is that you are refusing to listen to what their silence is saying. Too often, people hold on to relationships, friendships, or connections that have already faded because they are afraid to accept reality. They keep reaching out, hoping that one day the other person will change. They wait for a response that may never come, thinking that if they just hold on long enough, things will go back to the way they were. But the longer you ignore the truth, the more you hurt yourself. Silence is an answer. It is telling you that this person has already made a decision, and the only thing left for you to do is accept it. There is a certain power in walking away from people who choose to ignore you. When you finally stop chasing, when you stop waiting for a response that isn't coming, you take back control over your own life. You stop giving someone else the ability to dictate your emotions, your self-worth, and your peace of mind. You shift your energy away from trying to convince them of your value and start focusing on those who actually appreciate it. It is not your job to teach someone how to value you. It is not your responsibility to make someone see what they refuse to acknowledge. When a person truly cares, they will not let you feel like an afterthought. They will not make you question where you stand. They will not leave you in a state of uncertainty, wondering whether or not you are important to them. The people who belong in your life will make an effort. They will reach out. They will communicate. They will not leave you feeling ignored. The mistake most people make is believing that if they just try harder, they can make someone change. But you cannot force someone to value you. You cannot convince someone to care. You cannot make a person see your worth if they are not willing to look. The only thing you can do is decide how much of your energy you are willing to waste on someone who does not appreciate it. Every moment spent chasing someone who ignores you is a moment that could be spent on people who truly value you. People who truly care about you will not put you in a position where you have to question your worth. They will not make you feel like an option, like an afterthought, or like you have to fight for their attention. If someone is ignoring you, believe them. Believe their actions. Believe the silence. Because at the end of the day, silence is not just the absence of words. It is the presence of a truth you may not want to accept.